one of the trends that I'm seeing as well is around when it comes to chronic health issues, autoimmunity, or just issues in general, or people that want to be healthier, they're moving to a more carnivoric kind of diet. Lots of meat, maybe some fruits, and you're seeing a lot of this online on social media and things like that. What are your thoughts on that, first and foremost?
I'm not a big advocate of high meat diets. Um, the high meat is the high protein, it's low fiber. If it's low fiber, it's not going to feed the microbiome. But and so then if you're not going to be feeding the microbiome, you'll be definitely changing the bacteria, the yeast, and everything that's in there. And is that going to be good or bad for health? We tend to be thinking about things in isolation, whereas disease comes from a combination of events. And one of the doctors that I've worked with sort of describes it as a piece of Swiss cheese. So Swiss cheese has got holes in it. And let's say one of those holes is a lot of bifidobacteria. One of them is a high meat diet. And then before we've got a low vegetable diet. We might have poor sleep. We might have a super stressed job that would turned on all of the time. And you've got this surging stress that's coming through the system. You might do heaps of activity. You might not do enough activity. If enough of these holes all line up such that you can sort of put a pencil down through several of them, you'll say, right, now that's a disease state. So the disease state is not all because I've got the high meat diet or because I've got a heap of bifidobacteria. All these things are going to be great. So 2 or 3 people or 50 or 100 people could all have a high meat diet, and there might only be a disease state in 1 or 2 of those because in them, everything else that they were doing has lined up in such a way that, they've ended up with the disease state. In working with people who have food intolerances, a lot of them do feel much better on lower fiber diets. So you have this message of what we're thinking is great for everything. But if you're going to be telling somebody who's highly symptomatic that they have to eat all of these fibers that they really, really struggle with, then, their life is full of pain. So if they want to live a life without pain so that they can go out and do things, and they've chosen to perhaps eat, a higher meat diet because of that, then, their life is shaped by what helps them to be pain-free. Will that then line up some of these things so that down the track there may be a disease state that comes of it? Maybe in some and maybe not in others. People who just choose to do the meat thing because they think that it's healthier, we're all motivated by different things. So at the moment, they're talking about that for perhaps Alzheimer's and having a higher fat diet. So I know a lot of people are going into that with high meats. But then you've got microbiome studies that come out that says that we need to have the fibers because then if we've got the right bugs growing in the biome, then that's going to help with mental health and we're not going to get the Alzheimer's. So you've got the messages on both sides coming through. There isn't any directive yet in science that basically goes, right, 90% of a great amount of studies are suggesting that we need to do this. We are still in a whole lot of information's coming through, and in the absence of having a direct idea, people will go, well, I'm going to grab onto this one and I'm going to do that. And there will be some research that says it's okay, and there's going to be some research that says it's not okay at this point in time.
Well, yeah, it's tough as well because when individuals have these symptoms of chronic illness and experiencing a high amount of pain, it's very tough sometimes because you have all these things online saying, try this and then try this and try that. And then even offline as well, like in books and different ideas. And the books that sell the best are the ones that have the most controversial points of view, not always, but generally speaking, different diets and different, extreme ways of living. And then when it comes to the medical system, sometimes very, very broadly, it can be tough because it feels like going around a medical merry-go-round, so to speak. Like you have one specialist saying one thing, one specialist saying another. So I guess the trouble is like, what does someone do who goes through these situations? Like they want to address it themselves, but then they go to someone and someone says one thing, another thing. Is there any, advice? I know this is probably off the topic of what we're supposed to speak about, but do you have any advice or thoughts or reflections on that and what someone might be able to do?
Look, I really don't think that I can add to that. When there is an idea about what might benefit health, then people can often jump onto that and say, all right, well, I'm going to dedicate myself to that theory and I'm going to go with it. In the absence of the science being able to say that that's 100% what you should be doing, because to get to the point where you can make a statement that this is beneficial, there's years and years. We're doing decades of research. So by the time there is an idea, then you've got to research it. But then if it's only one or two papers, and a lot of this are studies that have just started. So there might only be 4 papers out there, and 2 of them might be for it and 2 of them might be against it at this point in time. So you need to wait till there's 100 studies out there, and then you can get an idea of which percentage are down this track and which percentage are down that track to see. And the one that's got the bigger percentage is the way that the medical people are then going to say, well, look, this is where we should be going. But it could be decades to get to that point. So if you don't have decades to wait, then I completely understand why you then choose to follow something. And if it is a manipulation of the food, my thoughts are that you need to speak to somebody to make sure that whatever you're doing, you still need to have a balanced basic diet. So that's where a lot of the messages, specifically around dairy-free, is just lost. The whole calcium thing, I can be standing in a supermarket and someone will go, oh yes, I had some hummus this morning. I've got some calcium in that, and that might give them 80 milligrams of calcium, and they might need 1,300 milligrams of calcium, and they don't know it. And so, they're going around with their tablespoon of hummus each day thinking they're covering their calcium needs, and then end up with osteoporosis and go, oh, what? I thought I was right. So there are certain things in nutrition that need to be covered. And if you're going to manipulate a diet and you want to follow for whatever reason, I would say, talk to somebody. But we don't have 100% for everything. Definitely do this and this is going to happen at this point in time.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Getting Mental podcast. If you like this episode, then you'll love this one here and this one here. Check them out.